Have you ever had this desire to optimize yourself, to get fitter, healthier, stronger, the new you, and you wanted to do it in a way that was harmonious to the environment, to nature, and you looked into it and it felt a little bit overwhelming. You didn't really know where to start. It felt like a rabbit hole, and you wished that you had somebody who'd went through that journey and could just give you all that information that you needed. Well, look no further, because my next guest is the amazing Adam Stansbury, and he is here to share all of his wisdom from going through this journey of being somebody who was stressed, who had a gut issue that resulted in surgery and removing some of his bowels, from being a health and fitness model and in the bodybuilding industry, protein, to on a completely different journey of going plant-based and learning about the connection of our food and with us and this earth and the environment, and how we can get ourselves fitter, healthier and stronger while also making the planet fitter, healthier and stronger, to living in this harmonious relationship. I am so honored to invite somebody who has walked this incredible journey, who is the soulful purpose leader, who is there offering his wisdom. And he's also got an incredible book, and where they're offering the whole depth of their journey with us, so that we get to learn from them a whole lot faster with all of their insights. And my name is Louise Cameron Edlund, and welcome to the Soulful Purpose Podcast. Welcome, Adam. We're so happy to have you. Yay! The plant-powered PT, and basically health ninja for not only ourselves, but how that relates to the planet. And what an incredible journey you're on. And yeah, I think it would be amazing for us to hear, Adam, what was your story like? What's this journey that led you to becoming this plant-powered PT, this health ninja for the world?
Wow, yeah, where do I begin? At the beginning, I guess, where should I begin? Yeah, childhood, loved the outdoors, always sporty. I was kind of teased a little bit at school by teachers about my weight when I was quite young, and it pushed me into this kind of, at the time, a bit of a kind of an obsession with the physical body and not wanting to be that kind of fat kid anymore. And I think those are the early seeds that really were sown in me for me to want to get into the fitness industry. Now, but before I got into the fitness industry, I spent I'd been training myself for about 10 years. And during those initial 10 years of getting into the gym and getting into fitness and stuff like that, I got into professional modeling. And I was a professional model for about 6 years. First of all, up in Manchester, and then Liverpool, and then ultimately coming down to London at the end of 2005. In 2005, I suffered something called ulcerative colitis, which is the ulceration of the large intestine, and that ultimately culminated in me having to have my large intestine removed at the end of 2000.
Wow.
So that's quite a story in itself, but it taught me a lot of lessons. It taught me that, six packs come and go, but you only get one set of organs. It taught me about the importance of having good support, family and friends around you. It showed me who those were as well, quite distinctly. And it also gave me a really good bit of experience and insight into the way the medical world looks at chronic disease, and I was sent away time and time again when I went to the GPs with a pharmaceutical, and every time I was sent away with a pharmaceutical drug, I knew it wasn't going to help me, because I knew that there was something going on inside of me that needed much deeper analysis and detective work to figure out. But no one had the time to sit down with me and to ask me if I was stressed, what I was eating at the time, and what was going on in my life. They were just packing me off with another drug, basically. And it made me realize, going through that whole experience, that modern medicine's amazing for emergency healthcare, for pain relief, but it doesn't do very well when it comes to chronic disease, because chronic disease is very much kind of, it's based on our lifestyles. And we generally, because of our lifestyles, that's what then manifests in the body. I was very stressed at the time. I had money concerns that were causing a lot of stress in my life. So it was definitely triggered by, it started by stress, and then it was triggered by a bacterial infection from some food that I'd eaten. Now, it was still several years before I went plant-based. After all the surgery I had over those that sort of 18-month, 2-year period, I then decided I wanted to get out of modeling, and realized that my geekiness, was lying in the fitness industry and becoming a personal trainer. So 2009, I became a personal trainer, and realized I needed another set of physical goals to work on. So I embarked on a quest of getting involved in natural bodybuilding and fitness modeling shows from 2009, 2010, 2011, and then I did another 2 in 2013. Those are the last 2 that I did. And those shows, I was very much on a very heavy meat-based diet at the time. That fitness industry mindset of more and more animal protein that you get inside of you, the better. But I was eating, I was probably sacrificing the quality just to get the quantity in there. And I think we all know that it's so much more important to get the nutrient dense quality in our food. Yeah, and I got to the end of that year after I did my last show, and I picked up a shoulder injury. And the shoulder injury was really the catalyst for this part of my plant-based spiritual journey that I started in 2000.
So before the shoulder, you were, even though you knew you had gut stuff going on, you were eating a lot of protein, a lot of meat. You still hadn't quite managed to stress, is that right? You still had that layer, or you'd started working there? Yeah,
I think that was the first stop for me. The stress was the first thing I worked on. That kind of from my illness, it really became very apparent, as in what can go on in the human body if you don't get stress under control in your life, in terms of your anxiety. Stress comes in so many different forms, obviously physical, emotional, mental, digestive, from the food that you're eating. But I didn't really look at that at the time, funnily enough. But I definitely, from my experience and illness, it's given me from day one really the ability to look on a situation and to kind of know what's good for my health and know what isn't. And I choose kind of opportunities that I get involved with now very carefully. And I'm much better at saying no to things. Because I can see if it's going to kind of overly sort of stress me, It took me a long time to really delve into the kind of plant-based benefits of healing and stuff like that, because I was so locked into the body and in improving the physical body, and coming from the background that I'd had in the fitness industry and doing these shows, it was all focused around protein, animal protein here. I was a proteinaholic. I was eating steak for breakfast, chicken breast throughout the day, washed down whey protein shakes, a couple of times a day, and I was counting calories for these shows and things like that. And I was in a kind of animal protein prison, I sort of refer to it, because I felt that I couldn't get what I needed to from a meal if I didn't have animal protein in it. And it began to feel very, very restrictive to me. And this shoulder injury that I picked up, it forced me to change the way I'd been training. I could no longer do the kind of workouts that I'd been doing, very much heavy volume, one plane of movement, the kind of bodybuilding style training that puts a lot of volume and pressure on your joints. And so I had to switch to a slightly more functional way of training, although I've always enjoyed functional training, kettlebells and bodyweight stuff as well. I now needed to do more of that. And at the same time, it then made me question, well, if I'm not training like that, why do I need to eat that much protein in my diet if I'm not trying to build muscle now for this period of time? And also, actually, how sustainable is that lifestyle, and how long do I want to be like forcing myself to eat that much meat every day? Am I doing that to the end of my life? And so I just started to question all of this stuff, and I initially just intended to become more mindful of the amount of meat that I was eating. I just was going to eat it less often and get it from good quality, kind of more ethical sources. What happened was I ended up going on a spiritual retreat in the UK, and they required you to go on a vegan diet to go on this retreat. I thought it was a great opportunity for me at the time to kind of vegicate myself.
Love it.
and kind of really experience, because I've always enjoyed using my body as a laboratory, and I test run training programs, test run different diets. I've tried all kinds of stuff over the years before I've given it to clients, and so for me this was another opportunity to try and experience a new way of eating. And I came back from the retreat and I felt amazing. I then decided to experiment with a pescatarian diet, so I just ate fish and dairy for about a month. And then after that, I decided to go vegetarian, so I cut out the fish. I was never intending to go vegan or fully 100% plant-based, but I think my subconscious was kind of taking me there without me being consciously aware of it. And in that month of doing the vegetarian diet, I watched 3 documentaries, and the first one being Cowspiracy, which looks at the effect that animal agriculture is having on, or certainly factory farming itself is having on the environment, and the levels of CO2 and methane that are going up into the atmosphere every day that are kind of causing havoc with climate change and destroying the kind of the nutrient density in our plants, basically. And so it kind of really attacked it from that environmental point of view that I hadn't ever thought about at the time. And so it really kind of, that got my attention. And then I watched another, it's like a lecture by an animal activist called Gary Yourofsky on YouTube. It's called The Best Speech You'll Ever Hear. And he's a very exuberant American animal activist, and he had some really kind of compelling points as to why you shouldn't eat animals and you should eat more plants. And halfway through this presentation that he was giving, he was showing also a lot of graphical images of slaughterhouses and farms, and a lot of the malpractices that go on in these kind of factory farms towards animals. And I just broke down and burst into tears, and it suddenly became very apparent to me what a part of this horrific kind of suffering I was actually creating because of my selfish needs in terms of the animal protein that I was kind of wildly consuming every day, just so I could kind of add muscle on and improve my body. And that really started it off then. And then about 2 or 3 days later, I mean, I was on quite an intensive 10 days of like pushing myself to really look at what's actually underneath the surface of the kind of the veneer of life and what's going on with our food. The third documentary I watched is called Earthlings, and it's narrated by Joaquin Phoenix, and it's again another very horrific documentary, but it looks at the relationship between humans and animals, and this term that they call speciesism, which is where we have this hierarchical view of where humans sit in the food chain. And we look at things like, dogs and cats as animals to be loved and stroked and petted, but we look at cows, pigs, chickens and sheep to be abused and used for their resources, and the fur trade and all kinds of things like that. And it's a pretty hard documentary to watch. And after I watched that, I was done. So for me, although I was very much in the fitness industry, interested in nutritional science, I was a big fan of the paleo diet before all this came about. For me, it was the ethical argument that for me was so black and white, because I could see biases on both sides of the fence. I could see that the paleo movement saying, what benefits, bone broth and all the, meat and saturated fat can have in your diet. And then I was seeing on the other side of the fence all these new studies that I was becoming more aware of about the plant-based diet and its ability to kind of reduce inflammation, introduce more antioxidants into the body, more vitamins and minerals, and all the super health benefits from that. So I could see there were studies flying all over the place, and I couldn't really make up my mind as to why I was going vegan. And so for me, the ethical argument for me was, and still is, the very black and white argument for me anyway, as to why I decided to go vegan. Because I thought, well, look, if I can live a really healthy life and improve my health, body composition and performance, eating plants and reducing the trauma and suffering that my life leaves behind now, why would I choose to eat so much animal protein? It just started to not make any sense to me at all. And that's been my kind of why and the driving factor to why I'm here today now doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, powerful story. And I loved how you had these different moments of your journey where you were faced with what seemed like a challenge. And one of my teachers, Ram Dass, calls it the fierce grace moments, of where something really seems like it's going against you and you might question why. And ultimately it's these catalyst moments that are directing you on the journey, like when you were a little kid and you were getting bullied for, being chubby, and that put you on the path to wanting to focus on your body, focus on your physical. It got you into the weights and the bodybuilding. And then you had the journey with your, how do you pronounce it? Ulcerative colitis?
Yes, ulcerative colitis. So it's the ulceration of the large intestine. Yeah.
And you had to face that, and that brought you into this journey of, well, if this is to heal, and I'm starting to understand that if I take maybe a pharmaceutical, you believe that it's not really getting to the root, and you started to realize that your health was beyond the physical and opened up into this new world of, well, actually, like, how is your stress? Are you worried about your money, your finances, your relationships? All of these things that we have in our life. And, I feel you. And sometimes it's just like these undercurrents of things just constantly in that headspace and mind space. And for us to ultimately be healthy, we need to look at that. And so I love how you had that initiation into that moment. And ultimately, one of the other catalyst moments was that shoulder, where you just couldn't continue the way you'd been training. You couldn't continue sustaining what it took to build those muscles into those bodybuilder places, which brought you into this moment where you had this retreat and you went into that big deep dive journey into, well, what is my health if I'm not considering the health of the ecosystem of the planet that sustains my life, and how am I relating with this ecosystem, with this world? And for you, starting to piece together these multi-layers, these dimensions of health, and if we're to really be truly honoring our health, it's how are you thinking? How are you feeling? What are you eating? How are you relating to what you're eating? And how is this impacting the environment? And they're big things to each one, to really look at that and be like, and we're going to have different stages, right? And all of us for how ready we are to look honestly and truthfully about where we're at in these areas, for sure. And what would be your advice to somebody who is wanting to start a journey of this whole multi-layered integrative process to becoming a bit more healthier and a bit more conscious about the way they choose what they eat and how they train and how they live with their health and the connection to this earth? Like, where's a great start point?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've attacked all of those different areas at different parts and timelines along, a journey that's kind of spanned, a long time. I would say, like, one of the first things I say to clients is to focus on progress, not perfection.
Love that.
So whatever your goal is, try not to focus on the perfect version of it on day one. See it as a journey. All these different journeys we go on, you've got to start somewhere, and you've got to put one foot in front of the other, and you've got to recognize that at the start of that journey you know nothing. And you've got to accept that, and you've got to accept that it takes time to collect information and understanding, and then to be able to apply it, like, further on down the line. So, take the pressure off yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Be gentle, and understand that, you've just got to it's better to do a little bit of something in the positive direction rather than nothing at all. So yeah, focusing on progress, not perfection. I think that's a really important point. You have to have a strong why. I think, obviously, if we're looking at setting any kind of goal in your life, in whichever area that is you want to focus on first, that having a strong why is really important, because your why gives you your reason for going through the challenging times that you're going through. Because when you go through the challenging times, so in terms of switching to a plant-based diet, for instance, you start going plant-based, you're suddenly out in social situations with friends. You usually go out for a steak and a burger with them, and you're with your mates, and they're kind of teasing you, and there's banter about you being a weedy plant eater or something like that, and it's really important that you have a really strong why, because that's what will give you your central kind of anchor to navigate those experiences, and you won't let them knock you off your path, basically. And also in family situations, it's expecting, my first Christmas with my family and not having turkey, my mum was freaking out. What do I eat? What do I cook for you? What do I cook for you? Don't give me any animals. I'll eat everything else. And so you have to navigate all these things. So having a strong why is really important. It's the thing that you refer back to. Why am I doing this? Because there will be points along the journey where you question yourself. You question why you're doing what you're doing. And so for me, that's been this kind of, I had a moment at the beginning of 2019, and I was kind of questioning myself in terms of the fitness industry and veganism, and it was all getting quite heavy at the time. And I was going through some personal things as well, and I had a bit of a kind of crisis, and I was thinking, why am I here? What am I here to do? And I thought to myself, actually, instead of thinking what am I here to do, I was like, think about what I'm not here to do. And for me, when I thought deeply about it, I thought, I'm not here to. I can't say exactly what I'm here for. I can't say exactly why I'm here, but I can say that what feels best to me is knowing that I'm not here to increase the trauma and suffering that my life leaves behind. So that's been my sort of really strong why, to focus on reducing the trauma and suffering my life leaves behind. The operative word being reduce. Nothing's perfect, nothing works 100%, but if you can focus again, that brings in the element of progress, not perfection. And so that was my strong why. So a strong why, progress, not perfection. It's making sure that however you go about things, you do it in a simple sort of way. The more simple you can make your life and these different things you're trying to improve, then the more sustainable they are. We've got this kind of habit as human beings that we like to kind of overcomplicate what we're doing because we think it's sexier or it's better or it's more effective. But actually, the more complicated we make things, the easier suddenly it becomes for us to actually fail at them or fall off the wagon. And then that reduces the sustainability of what we're trying to achieve. And if we want to achieve our goal, we need a simple, actionable and sustainable plan to kind of get there, because it's this consistent and committed effort that we need to apply on a daily basis to realize our goals ultimately.
Beautiful.
So those are my main points, I think, without going into each one super detailed. That would be globally how I would approach most things.
Nice. And I really love the aim for the progress and not the perfection, because when we go into something new, or we've maybe dabbled a little bit with an area with our food and getting to know the ethics, it can sometimes feel overwhelming. And we maybe do bite off more than we can chew, pun intended, and it can get choppy to navigate that. And what happens is we sometimes feel bad about ourselves, we judge ourselves, oh, I didn't do it right. And when we realize that it's just taking, as you say, the consistent commitment towards better every day. How can I just be a little bit better? How can I not have guilt around the days where maybe I didn't make it happen 100%? And how can I just get back into that mindset of, well, now's a new day, now's a new moment, and how can I make this moment even just a little bit better than I've done other days?
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
I read an article on Reddit last year, and a guy was kind of putting out a plea to help with. He was going through quite a difficult time of depression, and another guy left this amazing comment that became a very kind of quite a famous piece on Reddit, and it was this beautiful piece that he wrote on what he called having a no zero day. So we might have this kind of super ultimate optimal way that we'd like to live today. So say, for instance, today my goal was to hit all 10 things on my to-do list, and I've got caught up in one thing and I've not managed it. And so you could either choose to just not bother to do the rest, or you could just make sure that your day, whatever you do, is a no zero day. So it may be the smallest thing that you can possibly do, but you're doing something so that when your head hits the pillow at the end of the night, end of the day, you've done something. It hasn't been a no zero day, and it's those no zeros that you can then build on each day. Some days are going to be more successful than others, and others are going to be much less so, but it's making sure that each day you just do that little thing to keep pushing you in the right direction.
Yeah, I love that. So beautiful. And something very similar to that helped me. I've got a very interesting relationship history with food, and I used to have an eating disorder, and sometimes when I'd be on a binge, sometimes you would be like, wow, that's me eating that thing, so why bother with the rest of the day? I might as well just go downhill for the whole day out. Maybe we've done that after a hangover, we've ordered a Domino's pizza or, whatever, and we're like, oh, well, I've eaten this, I might as well have that and that and that. And when I learned something similar, it really helped me when I started to go into more destructive or against what I really wanted, that I could still catch myself and I could still change it, even if I slipped up on what I was doing. And that remembrance that, well, every moment, every second, you still have an opportunity for it to be, as you were talking about there so beautifully, that no zero day. You can still achieve something within that day. You can still do your best in a new moment. And I think that's really beautiful, what you shared.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see it a lot as well with nutrition coaching, not necessarily with people with eating disorders, but obviously people who are kind of trying to eat to suit their body or whatever physical goal they might be on, in terms of weight loss and body composition. And it's recognizing, for me, I last year, actually 2019, I really got into looking at kind of Joseph Campbell's work and around the hero's journey. These archetypal journeys that characters go on in all the movies, myths and legends that we've kind of grown up reading and hearing and watching. And for me, it's the recognition that all of us are on our own individual hero's journey. And I think if we recognize that this is a heroic and fascinating journey that we're all on as individuals, you don't have to have things fixed in the next 24 hours. You can kind of look at this process, this process as an enjoyable road of discovery and learning. rather than having it to be all perfect and all finished and done. Doesn't really ever exist.
Exactly. And I love the way you speak about that hero's journey, which I love as well. And it's a great reminder to be open as well within your journey, because if you know that it's just this continuous process, and each time you look back on your journey, you realize you learned something different, or you changed something, you were in a different part of your journey, that each section is just a part of your journey, and to always be open to learning and growing. And I can definitely relate to that within my own journey of food and eating more plant-based. I'm the same as you, Adam. I lived in the west coast of Scotland. You know, meat was just so part of life, like meat twice a day for sure. You had it in for lunch, in your sandwich, whatever, and for sure you would have it for your evening meal, and meat, a lot of meat. And that's what I did eat for a long time. And I actually went the other way from that, and I became a vegan for a few years, similar to yourself, where I really learned the footprint that I was leaving within the world with some of my choices that, to be honest, I mean, I didn't really know the extent. You know, when you see something in a counter, sometimes you disconnect it from, well, where does that come from? Like, where was the source of that? How was the life of that animal? How did it end up here? And we were just disconnected from that. And that's what led me into being a vegan for many years. And it was really beautiful. And I was actually in a plant medicine ceremony, and it actually connected me to my body. And I started to feel that I needed eggs within what I was eating. And I was open to that. But what I felt that the vegan part of my journey helped me was that it's not just any eggs that I'll eat. Living in Ibiza, I like to see the life of the animals. I like to see they've been kept well and they're having a happy life and different things. And for me, I took everything that I learned into my journey to being as conscious as I can be, to question things before I would just buy them within products. And that also extended to vegetables as well. When I started asking questions about meat, oh, where did this come from? What was the life of this? I started to then question the vegetables. Where did this come from? Oh, it came from Costa Rica. Oh, well, I love mangoes, but maybe it's not the best. And then I would see, oh, there's a mango from Malaga. I live in Spain. Okay, let me swap to mangoes from Malaga, and let me start to look at my food packages as well as the animal products, the fruit and veggies, and see, well, where can I make little changes? Where can I actually start to read the labels and understand? And where can I start to make more choices that are in alignment with the environment, ones that don't have pesticides and things that are going to not be great for me, but if I take it beyond myself, if I think about having children someday, so that it's not affecting the soil, so that my children and their children can actually have great fertile soil that will grow things from. And I think it's so great, that hero's journey of knowing that we don't have to be guilty in any way for where we are. And we don't have to be dogmatic in where we are, but can we be open? Can we learn something? Can we have that hero journey quality to us, where we're willing to cross thresholds into uncomfortable territory as we start to face truths within ourselves, and to gain support and mentors that will help us navigate this journey through? Because for me, in all the different areas of my life, having somebody who's walked the path before me made things so much easier, so much simple, especially when I first became a vegan. You know, you just cut out meat and you're eating not very exciting foods. Yeah, until somebody comes along and helps you and say, well, here's what you can eat. Here's some ideas they're actually inspiring. And so leading on to mentors, Of course, I would view yourself, Adam, as a mentor. It's someone who's walked through this journey, walked through the path. You've went through the whole process of what it means at every stage of this journey to writing your own book, Plant Powered by Adam Stansbury. Woo! Look at that! What a journey! Now we know what it took to get that book.
Yeah, you've had the backstory. Yeah.
Yeah, like what it takes for this heartfelt expression to reach us in our rooms when we order these books. Yeah. So, what is in this book? How can you support somebody who is wanting to take these steps towards a better health for themselves and the planet?
Yeah, so I think, like you said, for me, veganism, or the journey into a more vegan lifestyle or more plant-based diet, is actually a journey of increasing consciousness. Because essentially, removing the food aside, what it's getting you to do is to start lifting the lid and looking under the lid of society and what's actually going on with the food that's being produced, where it's coming from, and just what's going on to get that meal on your plate that you're kind of consuming. And whether you stay 100% vegan or you go 80% vegan, it's recognizing that just it's better that you're 70 or 80% plant-based rather than not at all, once you start to understand the mechanisms involved. I went off on one then a little bit. But yeah, the book, the book is sort of kind of, it's in three parts. I was doing a series of I did a presentation for about 20 minutes at a vegan event that friends of mine ran in London called Vivolution. It was called Vivolution Topics, and it was on health and fitness. So they had different health and wellness kind of coaches there who were within the vegan community to give advice and stuff. And so I did like a 20-minute talk on my journey. And then I got asked to do another talk for a company called Funzing. And they wanted me to do like a 60-minute talk. So I expanded that 20-minute talk to 60 minutes. And so I took the 20 minutes of my journey and I broke the next 40 minutes down into another two sections. And the middle section is on plant-based nutrition to improve your health, body composition, performance. So much more fitness oriented, with advice on how to avoid deficiencies on a plant-based diet, how to stimulate your metabolism, the mechanisms involved there. And then the third section was very much, I just started to really observe the obsession that not only the fitness industry, but the obsession that our society has when it comes to protein. And suddenly observing that, companies are putting the word protein onto so many different products these days to actually just sell more of them, because protein's become this buzzword. And then I started to obviously see that, there's 150 billion animals slaughtered every year on this planet to provide people with protein, and we think we're protein deficient. It's like, this is crazy. There's some crazy stuff going on here. And then I started to unpack, what's the kind of the damage, the impact on the environment from all of these mass-produced animals, And so the third section of the book takes you from the fitness industry, the obsession with protein, where that's come from, and then the impact it's all having on the environment. Talks about like the ethics as well, and what goes on with animals. So it's a kind of, I wrote this book over a couple of years by giving presentations, and I realized when I came to write my book, I realized I'd already written it.
Love it.
I've been giving these presentations, and so I sat down and I wrote the book based on my presentations, but with a lot more in-depth researched information as well, to kind of expand on all the other things, the topics that I was talking on. So it kind of, it's ideal for the person who's totally new to plant-based, who's curious, who wants to start on their plant-based journey. Maybe they've now got a reason, whether it's health, ethics, or the environment, to switch to a plant-based diet. The book will help you on that journey. It could be good for the vegetarians who are wanting to give up dairy and knowing how to, swap your dairy out and what to change it for and why you should give up dairy. And then we've got the kind of, I guess, the people who have been vegan for years and just not been able to eat the diet in a way that would improve their health and their body composition. So very much, obviously, it's educating people on a whole food plant-based diet and moving people away from refined foods as much as possible. So and then of course, it's ideal for that person who's looking for who's just curious about it, really, who's looking for a bit of philosophy, fitness and food recipes relating to the plant-based movement.
Amazing. And honestly, from somebody who's went through the journey of going from meat and two veg, traditional Scottish diet, into the world of being vegan and vegetarian and plant-based, it is a minefield. And sometimes you don't know how to get hold of all the information. There's so many sources, it's overwhelming. You don't know what to swap things for, and you become deficient maybe in things, and your energy's down just because you don't have the understanding. And if I had known that books like this exist, and if Adam had this book then in my journey, it would have been so helpful and beneficial. It's basically like having a guide who's got a roadmap and got the torch and got the little supplies of food that you need on the journey to help sustain you when you need it. And you don't have to get overwhelmed and you don't have to get stressed, because you went through this journey and you're sharing the information, the things that I'm pretty sure you wish you had this book, Adam, when you first watched those documentaries after that healing retreat that you had.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And what's really important for me in the book is to sort of to try and approach this and other people with no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Others and where they are on their path and their journey, because it's different for all of us. And the version of me now, kind of six years on this journey, compared to the version of me that before started it, that was consuming so much animal protein. I couldn't expect that version of me to know what I know now and to really deeply understand it the way I do. So you have to kind of you approach people in a soft way, offer them the information that they need and support them on their journey, and helping them unpack and unravel all of this. You can't force people to just suddenly believe what you believe. So that's been an important factor in this book. And it's also just really, it's getting people to look at, I'm quite honest in the book about, I understand that we're an omnivorous species. We're omnivorous in that we could eat meat when in the wild when we had no plants available, and likewise we could eat plants when we had no meat available. And that's why we've been able to evolve and last this long on this planet, because how adaptable human beings are. We don't have a purely carnivorous digestive system. We don't have a purely herbivorous digestive system. So now that's all well and good in an environment that's wild, and if I was in the wild and I had no plants around, I would probably kill and eat an animal, but I would be directly linked to the life and death I was taking, and there would be a level of respect, understanding, and interaction with life and death, that cycle that's natural on our planet. Now, what I'm talking about is very much in the fact that we live in a society where, in the Western world, we're thriving. There's people in this side of the world that have got so much food that they're dying, whereas in other parts of the world they don't have enough food and they're dying. So we've got this really imbalanced system. And so if we're able to thrive eating a certain kind of diet, but that's also improving the planet at the same time, surely that's to me, that's where this discussion of what diet's best, that's what we need to start taking into account now. It's no longer for me good enough just to go, well, this diet is proven by studies to be better than this diet for this, because ultimately Well, it's great. You know, if a tiny percentage of the population can actually afford to eat grass-fed meat, good for them. But what about the 7 billion other people on the planet who are actually all needing to eat as well? And the fact that we're on a finite planet that doesn't have the kind of space that we need to feed all those mouths. And so I'm just trying to get people to really look at, it's super important that you eat a diet that's good for your individual health. But also at the same time, we need to take into account the impact those food choices are having on the world around us. And I don't think we can separate the two anymore. We're at a point in time where it really is now that we all need to take responsibility for those choices that we make and the effect they have on the world around us.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Powerful way to round this up is your beautiful words of wisdom. And my favorite thing for me to take away and a remembrance for me is your aim for, I've forgotten the word now because I've got the word perfection. Aim for progress. I was stuck in perfection. I was like, perfection. No. Yeah. Whatever you do, aim for that progress every single day that you can. And again, the why. Remember your why. And this can be for anything in life. Your anchors and your pillars in whatever we do, whatever we try. Aim for progress. Have a strong why that's going to remind you why you're doing what you're doing when you face the resistance within yourself or within others, as you mentioned. Perhaps if it is food, like you know, Adam, when you give up meat and you don't have that burger with your friends at the pub, and they start, teasing you and joking, that why is going to anchor you in. And I really loved that for so many areas of our life. And thank you for being the pioneer of this journey, going through this incredible process, your own hero's journey. And not only that, but being able to take this back as an offering for all of us and for the world to heal ourselves in relation to this beautiful, incredible earth that sustains our life and how we can give back to her. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me, Louise.
Yeah, and a little reminder for people to take a screenshot and share this on your Instagram or on your Facebook. Tag Adam Stansbury, Plant Powered PT, and myself, Louise Cameron Edlund. If you're watching or listening, I should say, on Spotify, leave a review. If you're on the Apple podcast, leave a review. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a review so we can spread this and help one another thrive within this. So thank you so much, Adam, for joining, and everyone can find Adam on his Instagram as well. You can type both in, Adam Stansbury or the Plant Powered PT. And your book is available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback.
Yeah, that's right. And Apple iBooks for Kindle as well, and a couple of other online sort of retailers.
Amazing. I'm feeling inspired for plant-powered life force in my life. Amazing. Thank you so much for bringing your wisdom today, Adam.
Thanks for having me, Louise. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. See you. Bye.
Power.